All right, we're going to jump right in with a huge question today. What if the very idea of a country, the basic way we've organized the whole world for centuries, is actually coming to an end? Now, I know, that sounds pretty radical, maybe even unthinkable, but the sources we're diving into today argued that it's not just some far-off possibility, it's a shift that's already happening all around us.
Okay, let's just sit with this statement for a second. Calling a nation an obsolete technology, that completely changes the game. It reframes how we think about countries. It says, hey, these things were invented for a specific purpose at a specific time. And just like any other technology, it means they can be upgraded.
So, what problem was this technology even designed to solve in the first place? Well, the nation-state system, which was born out of the Peace of Westphalia almost 400 years ago, was basically created to stop the endless, devastating religious wars that were tearing Europe apart. It was a 17th century solution for 17th century problems. So the real question for us today is, how's this 400-year-old operating system holding up? Has it actually delivered on its promises?
And this, right here, gets to the absolute core of the argument. The promise was simple: peace, stability, and protection. But what's the reality been? Well, by forcing all these diverse groups of people inside artificial borders, nation-states have often created the perfect recipe for conflict, everything from the world wars to horrific genocides. They often fail, spectacularly, to protect the very rights they claim to guarantee, and they've overseen countless currency collapses that just completely wipe out the life savings of their citizens. Now, this isn't just some abstract academic critique. The whole point is that this old system is already starting to fracture. It's cracking under the pressure of our 21st century world. The key insight here is that we've been treating this political invention like it's a law of nature, when really, the signs that it's becoming obsolete are everywhere, if you just know where to look. I mean, just take money, for example. Huge transnational corporations like Apple, they basically operate in their own global space now, moving money and resources in ways that pretty much ignore national borders. When a single company can stash $250 billion offshore, it really shows you the limits of a country's power to tax and control what's happening within its own supposed territory. And it's not just big corporations pulling power away from the center. We're seeing power flow downwards to cities and outwards to all kinds of other groups. You've got parts of Mexico where drug cartels have essentially become the de facto government, providing social services and security. And at the exact same time, you have city mayors completely bypassing their national leaders to sign international deals like the Chicago Climate Charter. They're basically running their own foreign policy. As you can imagine, this whole unraveling is creating a really fierce political backlash. It often gets framed as this epic battle between nationalists and globalists. And the language, my gosh, the language on both sides has become incredibly hostile, with things like fascist sock puppets and ruthless cosmopolitan rats. It paints this picture of two totally irreconcilable futures for humanity.
But what if that's just the wrong way to look at it entirely? I mean, think about it. We don't ask people to choose between their family and their country, right? Or between their city and their region. We all hold multiple identities at the same time. It's totally normal. So why on earth are we being forced into this corner to choose between our country and the world? Maybe, just maybe, there's another path forward. And this is where it gets really fascinating. This futuristic-sounding trend of unraveling actually mirrors humanity's most ancient way of living. For the vast majority of our time on this planet, we didn't live in fixed nation-states at all.
Look at this timeline. It shows this incredible arc. As hunter-gatherers, we were mobile, we were flexible. Then the agricultural revolution came along and forced us to settle down, to become tied to a specific piece of land. That eventually led to centralized kingdoms and finally nation-states with fixed borders. But now, the digital revolution is cutting those physical ties, creating this whole new class of digital nomads, and, in a weird way, returning us to a more mobile, decentralized way of life.
Thinking this way also helps us see a much deeper truth. The whole idea of a pure national culture is, well, it's basically a myth. Our identities have always been a product of global mixing and matching. The point here is that the things we think of as uniquely ours are almost always this beautiful mashup from everywhere else. You take the English letter A. It started as a drawing of a cow. In Egypt, the iconic Eiffel Tower in France, the design was inspired by a structure in New York. China's official state ideology, Marxism, that came from Germany. And that quintessentially Italian dish, the pizza, couldn't even exist without tomatoes, which were brought to Europe from the Americas.
Okay, so If our cultures have always been global, and technology is making our lives more and more mobile, that brings up a huge question. How could we possibly organize ourselves in the future? If the nation-state is a technology built for a world where everyone stays put, what's the new tech for a world that's all networked together?
One potential answer is a pretty new technology called a DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Now, it's a complicated name for a really simple idea. Just think of it like a club or a co-op, but instead of the rulebook being a piece of paper in a filing cabinet, it's a piece of totally transparent software. All the rules and all the money are managed automatically and publicly by the code. There's no single person in charge. The members themselves are in control.
To really get why this is such a big deal, you have to compare it to the old model. Traditional governance, whether it's a country or just your local book club, is centralized. That means decisions are made behind closed doors by a small group of people. The whole process is slow, the records are often hidden, and let's be honest, it can be a magnet for corruption.
Now, contrast that with a DAO. Somebody makes a proposal on the public blockchain, let's say to spend some of the group's money on a new project. Every single member gets to vote on it directly. If the proposal passes, the code automatically carries out the decision. And the entire history, the proposal, the vote, the money transfer, it's all permanently recorded and visible to everyone. No backroom deals, it's just radically transparent and totally automated. And look, this isn't just some wild sci-fi theory for crypto nerds. Imagine your condo board or your homeowners association running this way. No more secret meetings, no more questionable spending. All the decisions, all the financials would be completely transparent and verifiable on a blockchain. You can use this same model for everything from small clubs managing a shared bank account to massive online communities funding public projects, all while giving members a really clear and easy way to leave if they don't like the direction things are going.
So, if we put these two massive trends together, this return to a more mobile, global life and the creation of these new digital tools for governance, what does the future actually start to look like?
Well, this leads us straight to the concept of the cyber state. So imagine a community where your citizenship isn't based on where you happen to be born, but on a conscious choice you make to join. A community that isn't bound together by physical land, but by shared values that are literally encoded in software, accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world.
Now, the crucial takeaway here isn't that countries are just going to disappear overnight. That's not what this is about. Instead, we might be moving toward a world of layered identity. You could be a citizen of Chicago, a citizen of the United States, and a citizen of 1 or 2 or 3 global cyberstates, and each one serves a different part of your life and your values. That whole false choice between nationalist and globalist, it just dissolves.
So at the end of the day, our entire global operating system was designed almost 400 years ago. Today, it's colliding head-on with technologies that let us communicate and trade and form communities in ways that its creators could never, ever have imagined. What happens next? Well, that's probably one of the biggest questions of our time.